thought we'd talk a little bit about sleep issues that people commonly come in and seek help for. So in hypnotherapy, this is something that we see quite a lot, hey?
It is. It's surprising how many people have difficulty sleeping at night.
Mm. When we kind of think about that idea of why someone can't sleep, it seems elusive. You know, they also get anxious about not sleeping.
Yeah,
Worried way before time.
Yeah, sort of, I'm so tired and I know when I go to bed tonight I'm not going to be able to sleep. You know, I used to be able to go to bed and my head would hit the pillow and be fast asleep, but not these days. So they're self-talking themselves into not getting to sleep.
Exactly. So it is important right from the word go when I'm working with a client to sort of say what's their story around their belief around sleep. In fact, I just finished off a session with a young girl, and she hadn't had a good sleep cycle for a long time. She sort of was one that would stay up until 2, 3 in the morning and then couldn't get up properly and couldn't function. And then she had anxiety and it was just this awful cycle. So finally, she's got her sleep cycle back. So she's going to sleep at a reasonable hour. Actually, it's about 11 p.m., which was much better than 2 or 3 a.m. And sleeping through till 10 a.m. apparently. So she's certainly banking up her sleep.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Sorry, you go.
So I was going to say, it's surprising how many people, when you ask them, so in the evening, do you actually take time to rest and relax? And they say, yes, I do. But they're on a screen watching the TV or on their laptop, which doesn't actually relax the brain, does it?
No. The brain sees light as like the sun, right? So if we're seeing objects that are like the sun to our brain, the circadian rhythm is going to get interrupted. So there's certain frequencies of light that can definitely interfere with our ability to create our natural sleep hormone, which is melatonin.
For sure. And I mean, they do advise that you should go out and the length of time a day keeps changing. But I believe it's around about 15 minutes, but it could change depending on what article you're reading. To get that amount of natural sunlight a day really makes a difference.
Yeah. So the core things like vitamin D, which we're going to get from the sun, and that's all part of our sort of circadian rhythm cycle balance. When people don't have enough vitamin D, so they haven't had enough sunlight, they can actually suffer from, winter blues. So especially in that depth of winter, that can really interrupt the system and people feel depressed and stressed. And of course, if you're worried about something, you're already then depressed because you've been depleted from getting the right amount of vitamin D. That's going to have a knock-on effect often for some people and their ability to calm the farm at night and get the sleep that they need.
Along with the added daily stresses that people often have occur in their natural life.
I had someone yesterday who was talking about their brain seeking reward all the time, so that dopamine cycle. And I think that can be quite interesting just to see how in modern life we're getting this hit off our devices all the time, where we're getting excitable information coming in, and I don't know, it's sort of creating this big imbalance in the world, I do believe.
Yeah, I mean, how many people do you see actually? Well, look, let's reframe that in the moment. When I take the dog for walking in the mornings, years ago, you used to walk the dog and people say good morning to you and they were just wandering along, taking in the environment. Whereas nowadays, you go for a walk and how many people do you see that have got their headphones on or earpods in, or they're walking along, and then that you hear that people get hit by a bus or whatever. And it's not surprising because our attention is always seems to be everywhere else. We're multitasking.
Yes. So having that simplicity of just doing one thing at a time and maybe having some free time off that device before bed can be really useful for some people to get into a better sleep pattern, to help the brain to actually relax, maybe dim the lights, have maybe a bath or a shower, go and do some something like stretching or doing some breathing exercises that just helps you to just slowly build into that sleep time.
Even reading a book rather than reading off of a Kindle or a laptop, reading a book can also help the brain start to settle and unwind as well.
I know for me, if I try and read more than 2 or 3 pages, my eyes get heavy, It's like, oh, there we go. Especially if it's a good book, it's always that one. We were kind of looking at that overthinking and stress and anxiety. This is something that hypnotherapists, we do help people with all the time, don't we?
Yeah, it's a common thing that people come into us for.
So, when there's a bit of stress at work or maybe in your home life, it's common to have that keep you up at night because there's a part of your brain that wants to problem solve.
One of the things, I don't know what you do as well with your clients, sometimes when there is a lot of things that they're overthinking and ruminating on before bedtime, is I do suggest that they write it down or do a journal, try and let go of some of those feelings and thoughts that they've got going around in their mind,
I like a journal like this. So you dump like what's on top. And it's messy and it goes on the paper. And then you read it through and you go, what have I learned from that? Or what do I want to learn from that? Right? And then you write that down. So that's the wisdom that you're going to take into the next day. And that really helps a person process and finish the chapter. Because often if you haven't had a chance, let's say you've been busy, and it's not until you put your head on the pillow that you even had a chance to process what happened to you today, that will keep you going. Your brain wants to process. So if we actually have a space, well, one, we're taking it out of our mind, so we don't have to remember it anymore. We're taking it out of their mind or out of our mind and putting it somewhere else. So it's a level of detachment. And that's helpful. So we're putting it somewhere. We're putting it into the pages of a book or whatever. So it doesn't have to be in the pages of our mind. And then from that, as we ask, what would I like to learn from that? Especially if it's been a stress patch, What do I want to learn from that? What do I want to do differently moving forward? And really acknowledge that learning and wisdom that can help to settle the brain.
Yeah, there's a few ways. I mean, I've done that one as well. I've also done where I get people to write down what's troubling them, what's on their mind, read that out aloud to the self so that you're actually acknowledging it, and then you read it out loud, tear it up, burn it or get rid of it in a way so that you're letting it actually go. Again, it's working on similar principles, but you're letting it go, whereas you're moving forwards and looking at knowledge and how you can work through. So I guess it depends on what the person is wanting as the outcome as well. Yeah,
I think it's important to leave on the high note when we go to sleep at night, that we're going to sleep with something we feel grateful for, or something that we feel satisfied that we've achieved, or some learning that we're taking that could be really useful. I think that is important for brain to have as a reward, to then go and dream on that, to allow that to assimilate into the long-term memory.
Yeah, I would end with the day like having 3 things that you're grateful for the day, and to start off with, people can find that very difficult to think of 3 things that they're grateful for. But you can start off with simple things, just like the sunshine, or that you got to work on time, or your family around you, and you can build up on that as time goes through and you do that practice.
I want to talk about the sleep becoming a bit of a pattern. So with this young lady that I was working with, she had created quite a chaotic pattern. And I do see that with people. They get into a habit of not going to sleep at a good time. And then it just builds on itself. I usually say 3 to 4 days it takes to adjust to the new sleep cycle. So if you were to go overseas, it's going to take about 3 or 4 days for your circadian rhythms to adjust to that particular time space. So when we are working with clients who have a sleep disturbance and they've got into bad behavior and they don't go to sleep, don't even get into bed before, 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the morning, we really need them to start to get better sleep habits. Now, it's not enforcing the 7:30, p.m. bedtime or anything. They're adults. They might have, maybe very limited time to themselves just to relax. And that's often what people will do, is steal the night time for themselves because they're so busy. But then they're in deficit the next day. So it is important when I'm working with someone for them to own, what do you think is a reasonable time for you to go to bed? And let's aim for that. And let's normalize it. It may take, 3 or 4 days for your brain and body to adjust to that, and that's okay. But as those each day goes, it gets easier and easier. So that's where the hypnosis comes in. We can begin to support them through that art of suggestion, yeah?
Yeah, and everybody's time will be different and dependent on work and children and that, of what time they need to get up. But it is important that we try and get some sort of structure and routine, I think, into healthy sleep patterns.
Yeah. I was looking at one of my notes here, just looking at that reframe. If we're saying, like before at the beginning, I'm going to find it hard to sleep, and every time this happens, and they're building on that negative expectation, we've got to work on that, right? So it may be, every time I go to sleep at night, sleep comes easy. It's time to let go, and that feels nice to let go. So we start to prime the brain into the right messaging. And if a person keeps on believing sleep's going to be elusive, it will be. So
this is true. Sorry.
You go.
I was going to say, another thing that I also suggest to my clients is that they try and keep their bedroom as a place where they're just going to sleep at night. They're not doing their work and everything else. So that it is a space that is just for that relaxation and for sleep. If
Definitely.
possible.
I think too, with a lot of flats and stuff, you might be doing work on your bed with your laptop, or doing the watching a movie in bed with your cell phone or whatever. I mean, that is normal. However, if you're that person that halfway through the night, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, you go to the toilet, check the time, and then you come back and you check what the news feed is, or whether you got an email or something else, well, you've probably got a bit of a problem there. And we need to kind of put the device somewhere else. Get an old-fashioned alarm clock if you have to for your bed, but get rid of that device out of your space so it's not so easy to go and pick it up, because that's definitely going to interfere with your sleep if you're checking in on the cell phone at those times. So quite often the bed, as you say, keep it for sleep.
Yeah.
The other one is having like a word, like a phrase that you could say, just let go, just let go. You can start to prime yourself by finding a phrase that makes sense to you that you would like to say as you go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts around that before we sort of finish up today's one?
I think it is, if you are having problems with sleep, then check in and reflect, what things is the things that you're saying to yourself, like we were saying about that negative self-talk, and changing that. See how you can actually correct that. Maybe go around and have a look and see if there is clutter or something, so that you're going into a calm space where you can relax. So there's quite a few things that we can actually do ourselves to try and change the situation and the comfort level of the area that we're actually going to be sleeping in as well.
For sure. For sure. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you would like to know more about learning how to be a hypnotherapist, you can join us on nzach.ac.nz for our training to become a clinical hypnotherapist. It's online, so it's available to people no matter where you are. And we've got a good class on at the moment. We're almost finished teaching inductions, which has been exciting.
Yes.
So yeah, we're rolling it out, and it is a rolling intake. So if you are keen, get in touch, visit the site and see what we have to offer. So yeah.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel as well.
And we'll be back here in another week with another bit about sleep. So tune in for our next one, Wednesday, 7 a.m. New Zealand time. So until then, bye guys.
Bye.